All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er look ahead to the NFL draft. Well, and of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Check them out in Corte Madera and in Emeryville. They're open 7 days a week in Marin County from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Well, today is April the 12th, and that means it is the 49ers local pro day in Santa Clara. And there's a bunch of prospects in Santa Clara today working out in Santa Clara in front of the 49er coaches, in front of John Lynch and Adam Peters and the personnel staff. Every team in the league gets their local pro day. And I've got a few players here, 6 or 7 players that I think you ought to keep your eye on that I think are going to be the stars of Pro Day. Let's start with Jake Haener, the Fresno State quarterback. Haener's an interesting prospect. He's a little on the older side. He's 24. He's not the biggest guy. He's 6 feet, 209 pounds. Started at UW, only played 2 years at Fresno State, but very smart player. A guy who's very decisive under pressure. He processes what he sees pre-snap at the line of scrimmage quickly. He's tough. He's accurate. But he's also had a slew of injuries along the way. He wore number 9. He's a kid who went to Bay Area kid, Monte Vista High School in Danville. His mom is an anchor at KTVU, and this kid has been fun to watch at Fresno State the last couple of years. First team All Mountain West as a senior, and started all 10 games this year, and he's had some injuries throughout his career, and so that also kind of makes you pause. But then he went to the Senior Bowl, and he was named the Senior Bowl MVP. And just a really, really solid football player, a guy who's an athlete, a very good competitor. They say he's kind of cocky, but you're talking about a guy who was a great high school athlete. One of the first team named to the first team quarterback on the All Bay Area prep team after his senior year at Monte Vista. Finished his career at Monte Vista with over 8,000 yards passing and a school record 90 touchdowns and 24 picks. Just a really solid guy. Played for Tolbert's buddy Craig Bergman at Monte Vista, and he's got a younger brother. He chose to attend Fresno State because his dad grew up in Fresno, and he had a lot of family and friends there, and recruited out of high school by a lot of Pac-12 schools, by Wake Forest, by North Carolina, and was a communications major down at Fresno State. I think Haener's probably going to go in the probably 4th round. I would say 3rd to 4th round, but most likely the 4th round. And he's a battler. He's not the biggest guy. He's had some injuries, but if you're looking for a guy who will get it out on time, with touch, throws with anticipation, processes what he sees, very smart, very competitive. There are durability questions for sure, but this guy's a gamer. He's an absolute gamer. And Jake Haener, I think, is going to be a real solid, at worst, backup NFL quarterback. Really like Jake Haener. Loved what I saw at the Senior Bowl. All right, that's number 1. Number 2 on the list is Tanner McKee, the quarterback for Stanford. McKee, unlike Haener, who's only 6 feet, McKee's got prototypical size, 6'6", 230. Did a 2-year LDS mission. He's a mature kid. He's got a great arm. I mean, this guy's got a hose. He throws very accurately. I did Stanford's pregame show the last few years, not this last year, but the years prior, and this kid's got a great arm. Sat behind Davis Mills and then got a chance to play. And great arm, great touch. The one thing is he stares down his receivers, and he gets a number of balls batted down at the line of scrimmage. Many more than you would think a 6'6" quarterback would. So that's something he needs to work on. And he's never going to have mobility. This guy's a throwback. He's an old school guy. He's 6'6", 230, went to Centennial High School in Corona, econ major at Stanford, smart kid, great, really a good kid. And just a 2-time Pac-12 all-academic honor roll in 2021, 2022. He was the team captain, very likable player. He was the offensive player of the game at Notre Dame this year. He comes out after his junior year, and I really like McKee. He's a guy who, did his LDS mission in Brazil, and he's just a little bit more mature than your average player for sure. But was a 4-star recruit by rivals coming out of high school, and he's got the kind of the prototypical size that you're looking for. If you like the big arm pocket passer, this is your guy. He's very mature. He's already married. This guy's been married, and he's a married, focused, guy who doesn't have great mobility, but he has prototypical arm strength. I mean, I think this guy can throw the deep out with anybody in this class. He can really wing it. And he's not going to make a lot of plays off out of structure. He's not going to make a lot of plays off schedule because he just doesn't have that kind of mobility. But man, Tanner McKee, if you want to throw that deep out, if you want to be like a guy, to me, he reminds me a little bit, if you want to go old school, for looking for a comp, of like Stan Humphries, when Stan Humphries played for the Chargers, and their offense featured a lot of 18 to 22 yard cut patterns, ins and outs, and he threw that pass like on a line, like a frozen rope. Tanner McKee can do exactly that. He's got a tremendous arm. He can put the ball on the hands. He's an impressive. I mean, just watching him throw, he's an impressive thrower of the football. But there's not going to be a lot of off-structure stuff. He does stare down receivers. He needs refinement. Not very mobile. The one thing, though, that I think is intriguing about McKee is that Stanford's offense struggled the last couple of years because of a lack of speed and talent. And so he wasn't surrounded by a great cast. He didn't have a great O-line. He didn't have great weapons for the most part. He had a couple guys that I'm going to talk about here that will also be at this pro day that he had to throw to, but Stanford played slow. They played one of the slowest paces. They were kind of like run the ball some more. So I think in some ways the David Shaw offense may have handicapped McKee a little bit. I think he's a little bit better than what he looked at Stanford. And somebody's going to grab this guy in the third round, most likely, and they're going to just love what kind of thrower he is. I mean, there are very few guys in the NFL that throw the ball like Tanner McKee. To me, he's kind of like a little bit more accurate with a little less arm strength than like a Joe Flacco, but the same kind of thing. Tall, angular guy who just throws a laser. Can throw lasers. He can make the deep out pattern from the wide hash to the wide side of the field. He can make that throw and put it in a tight window. So there's, watching him throw, you say NFL. Then you wonder about, with NFL pass rushers, is he going to be able to get away from them? And then if he can't get away from them, is he just going to suffer a bunch of injuries? But if you're just looking for a big pocket passer, I really like this guy. I really do. And it would not surprise me if Tanner McKee goes somewhere in the NFL and becomes a better player in the NFL than he ever was in college. He should be in Santa Clara. Watch for him as well. All right, let's get to number 3 and 4 on the list. And they're the two pair of bookends from San Jose State, Viliami Fehoko and Cade Hall. Cade Hall is the son of the ex-49er Rhett Hall, and he's a workmanlike 6'4", 270-pound defensive end. I don't think he's going to get drafted, probably an undrafted free agent, but absolutely the kind of undrafted free agent you want. He's got a terrific motor, very productive football player, tough, smart football player. Doesn't have that incredible twitch that you see from NFL speed rushers, but he also has a frame to potentially add weight. I think Cade Hall is going to play in the NFL. Reminds me a little bit of Trent Murphy, who played at Stanford and then played with Washington in the NFL. Trent Murphy was a solid NFL player for a number of years. I think Cade Hall can be a solid NFL player for a number of years, and he's a guy that I would be very interested in signing after the draft. Viliami Fehoko, let's talk about him. Now, he's another local kid. All these kids have a local tie. He went to San Jose State. He started at St. Francis, played in the WCAL, 6'4", 263, from East Palo Alto, and he was the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, this guy really plays. Tremendous player, fifth in the country. He had 19 tackles for loss, finished third in the league, 17th in the country with 9 sacks, which was a career high this year. Just a really, really productive football player. He's a bigger defensive end. There's guys that have a little bit more bend, but the motor is off the charts. Really tough guy, really physical guy. Played for Greg Calcagno at St. Francis in Mountain View. Really came on his senior year in high school, and speaks Tongan. He can communicate effectively in sign language. He's a second cousin of Vita Vea of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and just a really solid NFL player. I mean, this guy was productive as hell in college. The motor really revs high. I think this guy can play in a number of different schemes, but I really like him. To me, day 3, pass rusher. You're looking for a high motor pass rusher who could potentially make your team. Viliami Fehoko could be that guy. Very, very intriguing football player in my mind because, he's a guy that's got that production. He's got a knack to sack the quarterback. And, that's one of those things. The very few things translate from college to the pros, but one of them is sack production. If you're the kind of guy that sacks the quarterback in college, odds are you're going to be able to sack the quarterback in the NFL. And Fehoko is the real deal. So, the measurables could be better. Some of the workout numbers could be better. For that reason, he's a day 3 pick, in my opinion. But 5th round, and you're sitting there and you're looking for an edge rusher, and you play him in a rotation. Fehoko is a nice player. All right, let's talk about the next guy on the list, and that's Micheal Wilson, the wide receiver from Stanford, who's also had his injuries. 6'2", 215-pound wide receiver. He was Stanford's team captain. He was the best wide receiver in Mobile. He's a crisp route runner. He's had a lot of injuries, but you're talking about a really solid football player. He's one of Stanford's best. He's a Southern California kid from the Simi Valley, played at Chaminade. But down there in Southern California, 2-time All Pac-12 honorable mention. Just a really, really solid football player, team captain, leader of the team, academic honor roll, smart kid, athletic kid, productive football player. There's guys with crazier athletic ability than Micheal Wilson, but he's just a really solid pick. Now, where is he going to go? I'm not sure. But he comes from a very athletic family. His aunt played soccer for the New Zealand World Cup team and was the first women's player inducted into the Wellington Football Hall of Fame. His uncle, Creighton McFarland, played football at Prairie View A&M. His cousin ran track at Sacramento State. I mean, it's just a very athletic family. Micheal Wilson, I think has a chance to be a really solid NFL player. Now, he's not super explosive. There's bigger guys, there's faster guys, but as far as you want a reliable receiver, day 3 receiver that you can take and has a very good chance of making your football team, I think Micheal Wilson is definitely on that list for Stanford. Another guy on this list also at Stanford is Elijah Higgins, and Higgins might be one of the more interesting guys. Of all the guys at the Niner Pro Day, Higgins might be the guy most likely to come to the 49ers. Why? Because I think the Niners are looking for a flex tight end, somebody with who they can play, use flexed outside the tackle box and can make plays in the passing game. And Elijah Higgins is 6'3", 230. He's that flex tight end prospect with size and speed. There's no question about it. Some people look at him as a jumbo receiver. I don't think he gains enough separation to be an NFL receiver, but as a tight end, I think he's got a ready-made body. Now, can he handle the inline blocking? Can he deal with the physicality? Can he handle defensive ends, stay in front of them? I don't know. But, man, this guy's put together. I mean, he's 6'3", 230 and chisels up. He had a great workout in Indy. Pretty solid football player throughout his career at Stanford. Has had some big games individually, makes some tough catches down the seams. Elijah Higgins in the 6th, 7th round could be an absolute steal as a day 3 flexed out tight end. And the best player in that will be at the local pro day for the 49ers is a guy that I've already talked a lot about, and that's Notre Dame's defensive end, Isaiah Foskey. Tremendous defensive end, 6'5", 265. He's an Antioch kid who went to De La Salle, 34-inch arms, ran 4.58 in the 40. He's got the 1.66 10-yard split. Terrific athlete. 34-inch vertical, 22 reps at 225, great strength. And when you watch the film, you can see that strength. It's not just weight room strength. It's functional strength. He sets the edge in the run game. In 2021, he took over as Notre Dame's number one pass threat and or pass rusher, I should say, and had 12.5 tackles for loss, which was 10th in all of FBS. He was 10th in the FBS with 11 sacks. He also had 6 forced fumbles. This is Notre Dame's team captain. In 2022, he was a second-team All-American, 6th in the FBS with 14 tackles for loss and 11 sacks. Not only can he do it as a defensive end, he's also a threat on special teams. He had 4 block punts in his career. Lance Zierlein, who writes a lot of the NFL.com draft reports, compared him to Yannick Ngakoue, and I think that's a great comparison. He's taller than Ngakoue, but he's really, really solid football player. I think you can also make the argument that Foskey's best football is coming up. I think he's just coming into his own. He's a real hard-working player. So in a lot of ways, Isaiah Foskey could be the 1 or 2 players that the 49ers might consider trading into round 2 for. I don't think he's going to be available to them at 99. I'd be shocked if he was there. But there's a very good chance if they do trade up and using some draft capital or players to move into the second round, they could be doing it with this guy in mind, and he'll be on the field in Santa Clara as well during the local pro day. All right, hope you enjoyed our 49er draft video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being a proud sponsor of The Krueg Show, and thanks for sponsoring and supporting The Krueg Show on YouTube.